Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Welcome back. Let's go and get started.
So, Sadhguru, your example on Rama brought me to this question. So, you know how when we go through the Indian mythology, Hindu mythology, we come to this word called dharma. So, what exactly is dharma to you?
See, the word dharma literally means the law. Now, you will see, if you look at the same Ramayana, Mahabharata, they're always talking in terms of Raja's dharma to the praja, husband's dharma to the wife, wife's dharma to the husband, parents' dharma to the children, children's dharma to the parents, teacher's dharma to the student, student's dharma to the teacher. What they're trying to say is, you must understand, this is a time from being nomadic tribes, they're trying to organize an organized society. They're trying to create civilization. In this context, they're fixing norms for every aspect of life. This is the way this relationship should be conducted. If you break this norm, then this is a disruption of civilization, that's what they're talking about. So to drive on the street, there is a dharma. You were supposed to drive on the left side of the street, most people don't seem to know that. That's another matter. You have to get that simple dharma. We think this is a rule. This is not a rule, this is a certain law. When I say a law, like in physics you're saying, the laws of nature or laws of gravity or laws of motion, like this, these are laws. If this transaction has to happen properly, in a fruitful way, if you maintain certain things, this will be a fruitful transaction. If you do not maintain this dharma, there will be disruption. So continuously they're talking about this dharma, that dharma, you must understand, they're trying to craft civilization. In all these things, they talk about one thing very significantly, which they refer to as Sanatana Dharma. Today, people are trying to brand it as their religion, but essentially Sanatana means eternal. They're talking about one particular law which is eternal. That means all other laws are generational. Every generation, these laws have to be relooked at and transformed. But one law is eternal, that concerns the inner nature of the human being. What concerns the body, what concerns the society, what concerns transactions in the society, all these things must evolve with generation to generation. But there is one law that need not evolve because there is no change in that dimension, the fundamental nature of our life. How to conduct this life? Just now he asked, how do we get there? You must know the Sanatana Dharma, the eternal law, which governs the life that we are. There is a law that governs our body, there is a law that governs our social transactions, there are many laws that govern the social transactions that we perform, but there is one law which governs the fundamental nature of our life. This we called as the eternal law, just to make people know, this you need not change, because this is always a constant. So dharma means a law.
So, in present context, with the parameters of dharma which were there previously, the parameters keep on changing. So, don't you think that even Sanatana Dharma should change its parameters to be called a religion?
Please repeat that question.
So, when dharma was said, there has to be some parameters on which they crafted the laws. So with change in time, the parameters change as well. So even for Sanatana Dharma, don't you think the parameters keep on changing?
No, I think this didn't get across properly. Sanatana Dharma is not a religion, that's what I'm trying to tell you. It is the laws that governs the life that we are. This is not a religion. You must understand, this is a godless land. This land does not have a religion, because this is a land of seekers. The seeking is for truth, the seeking is for liberation. If you listen to the conversations of maybe your mothers, maybe they're too young, maybe your grandmothers, if you listen to their conversations, in daily conversation, not in some spiritual transaction, daily conversation, without uttering the words karma, prarabdha, mukti, moksha, there is no conversation in this country, because the only goal was liberation. The highest goal is freedom, not God. So in this culture, there has never been a belief system, only norms to function with minimum amount of friction, because when human beings transact, what is my profit is your loss. What is your profit is my loss. How to conduct this transaction without creating friction among ourselves? For this we make the law. Why can't we drive all over the street? What's wrong? We are a free country. It's just that nobody will get anywhere. That's all that's happening. Nobody is getting anywhere because everybody is driving all over the place. So the same thing with every transaction, if we do whichever way we want, constant friction will happen, nobody will get anywhere, nobody will realize the full potential of who they are, because at every point we will be colliding with somebody else. So there are norms. When it comes to Sanatana Dharma, this is not about a transaction. This is about understanding the nature of your existence. This is eternal, this cannot be changed, it need not be changed, there is nothing to change because it's not changing. So you want to take that aspect and project it as our religion. No, this is about life, this is about human nature. This is not about either a particular religion or a particular nationality, no. This is about the fundamental nature of humanity, about this life, about the nature of our consciousness, how it functions, and how to make it blossom.
Would it be human nature? Because I would assume, maybe a different word, maybe a little better. Because whenever he says human nature, I would think of like our survival. That's human nature. Because nature is part of the natural world, and human nature are… But I mean, I guess he could mean it somewhere else, but it's just… it makes it into the material world, and I think what Sadhguru is talking about more along the lines of Brahman, which is, I guess from his understanding, is human nature as well, but I guess the translation is kind of lost when you talk to people who are not very familiar with this. I'm assuming this, mind you, so I'm assuming he's talking about Brahman, your eternal self, your Atman, your who you really are, as human nature, or as who we are as human nature is Brahman. Whereas I think people who don't follow this may think of human nature as our animal instincts, our instinctual nature. Eat food, multiply, seek shelter, fight or flight, you know. That's human nature in the non-Eastern philosophical themes. So there may be a confusion there whenever he's… if that's what he's trying to say, between Brahman and human survival, which is I think most people would assume to be human nature. And even in modern times, I think probably human nature now is like cheating, or I don't know, gluttonous, and you know, like human nature maybe has transformed into, instead of just survival for food, water, and shelter, is now becoming like cheating. Oh, that's the way men's nature is, you know, even though men are human, or that's women's nature, you know. It's kind of devolved or changed in definition of what it originally was to modern terminology, I suppose. I don't know. I'm making an assumption there, but obviously there's going to be that. This is how men are. Men are based on human nature. Like even throughout history, this is the way men have been. This is the way women have been. This is the way human society has been. This is our nature. But I think he's talking about the true self Brahman. And I guess that, again, I keep repeating myself, but I think there could be a confusion there. I don't know if I'm understanding him correctly, but I think that's what he's saying.
This is all the law is about. The law is not about this and that outside transactions.
Okay, yeah.
Over a period of time, people do many things.
Okay, and real quick too, is when he talks about Dharma, I didn't realize it was law. I thought it was like your obligations in some sense, as like you're talking about the law between child and parents, or teachers and students, students to teachers, husband to wife, wife to husband. I guess obligations would be a bit of a harsh word to say in that, but more along the lines your duties, which I do like a lot better, duties, which Even then, I think some people in perhaps Western society would say, "Oh, duty is my job." What are you talking about? It's like, oh my gosh, they're they are so selfish. They think of only themselves. Their duty is only to themselves, and other people's duty is to themselves. Sorry, other people's duty is to this one, and my duty is to this one. My duty is not to everyone else. Everyone else is to me. That's kind of some of the mentality. Now, I don't think it's just the Western world. I think it's most everywhere, and I think it becomes more prominent in developed areas. I think the reason why, again, I keep repeating, is what Sadhguru says, is that once hunger, water, and shelter is taken care of, those three essential problems to survival, 99 problems. You're hungry, that's one problem. No longer hungry, 99 problems. And we start being so independent that we no longer depend on each other, and then we start becoming selfish, because it used to be when we were not in a sense independent, we depend on each other, so we work together as a team. I tackle one thing, you tackle another thing, and we become successful together. But now that the harshness of the world is so easy now, this is the reason why I say it's a developed area thing, not necessarily nation, because you can have very much a developed area, much like in my birth country. There's one city that's very developed, and the rest of it's kind of still far behind. But you get this entitlement, this arrogance that develops there, because they're, all the fancy clothings they get, and everyone else is still wearing flip-flops or, hand-me-down clothes. So again, this is why I keep trying to get away from Western to just developed areas, because I do believe that to be the case.
So in today's technological world, we know that artificial intelligence and robotics are taking over. Those are the cutting edge technologies. So what is your take on the interaction of such technologies with the intersection of such technologies and ancient practices such as meditations and yoga?
Are you sure I'm real? Because last year and a half, they've been inviting me to speak in all sorts of artificial intelligence conferences in the world. I was just surprised, why are they asking me to come and speak about artificial intelligence, because I'm not an expert in the field, nor am I an artificial intelligence. So I asked them in one of the conferences, it was in St. Petersburg, I said, why are you guys inviting me to all these artificial intelligence conferences? I'm a natural intelligence, not an artificial intelligence. They said, the problem is, what are we going to do? We're going to lose our jobs. These are all professors in big universities, in MIT and in Harvard and these kind of places. They're asking me, what are we going to do in another 10 years' time? Because everything that we know, everything that was sacred till now, suddenly is going to be there on a little gadget. You must understand this. What artificial intelligence means is accumulation of information, analyzing it and projecting it the way you want at a given moment, will no more be considered as a valuable thing in human faculty. Because a simple gadget will do it much better than any human being. Already that Google lady is looking smarter than any of you, isn't it? She looks smarter than me, it's okay, I'm not educated, but you guys she's looking smarter than any of us or no? Anything you ask without batting an eyelid, she tells us. So, it's going to that place where intellectually everything that you perform will look stupid or meaningless.
It's very interesting, him talking about this, and I do remember him being invited, or seeing, I think, some of his invitation to artificial intelligence. But the sheer fact that this goes into another talk he's done about how what was back in the day the most important, well, I won't say the most important thing, but one of the most important things of mankind was the men's strength. Because in order to build shelter, you need strength to to haul the lumber, to hold up the big wood so that someone can tie up the wood up there, and to chop down the wood and to shape it in all kinds of forms to build society today. Don't get me wrong, we couldn't, no men or any groups of people can build skyscrapers by themselves. It takes a lot of power to do that, and even today we can only build so high without machinery. But now machinery has made men's power, or just power in general, really useless to some degree. Obviously, hauling washer and dryer and a refrigerator. There's some machines, but it's much easier to just get someone to do that for you. With a dolly and stuff. But now he's talking about how artificial intelligence is making intelligence useless in some degree. Now you don't need to go research and become super smart. Now you can just ask your phone. I don't want to say the word. You could just ask your phone, what the answer to blah 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 is, and the phone will answer back. So how power tools and machines has made us kind of soft in terms of the strength part. We no longer need to be super strong to be able to lift heavy things because we have machines for that. Now we no longer need to be super smart to know anything because the machines are that for now. We're replacing humanity with machines because machines can be stronger and smarter. But I know what Sadhguru is going to answer here, and it's the fact that this should be a blessing time because now we don't have to worry about becoming smart or super strong. We can enjoy life because machines can do it for us.
This happened to me when I was about 13 years of age, I think. 13 or 14, 13 I think. For the first time I saw a flatbed calculator, this Panasonic calculator, At that time it was 100, 110 rupees, very expensive. You drink a coffee for more than that today. But 110 rupees, Panasonic, Sony was 125, so we buy the cheaper one, 110 rupees Panasonic. And they show me this, I never bought them. Somebody brought one and they showed me, tuk. Results. The first thought that came to me is, why the hell am I wasting my life in the mathematics classes? I said, all I need is this, I don't have to go to the math class. Whatever question you ask, tuk. 100-rupee thing can tell you why this torture for 10 years, going through this arithmetics and mathematics and all kinds of things. It can even do sin theta, cos theta, whatever nonsense you want.
Dang, that's actually
Then
very
only I
advanced.
thought, we must make a big machine which does all this rubbish so that I don't have to go to school. At last, the dream is coming true. In the next 10-15 years, the education as you know it, professions as you know it today will become meaningless because right now, they've created these machines. Right now, we are still kind of obsessed with creating machines which look like us, which is unnecessarily complicating. It can be a square box which walks everywhere and does everything we do. It's too insulting for human intelligence. So, we're still making it look like a human being. If something is intelligent, it must look human in our mind. But slowly, for the sake of economics, somebody will make one tall box which does everything that you do, okay? Time is coming for that. So once this happens, many things that we are spending years on learning will be meaningless. Now they built a thing, I was meeting this one top real estate guy in Russia. They're designing something that if a customer comes and says, what kind of house I want, what is my aesthetics, what is my culture, what I like, how it should be, and what's my budget. A machine designs a complete house, 10 different alternatives that you want, including paintings, hangings in the wall, the furniture, the works. Now they're saying in another 5 to 7 years, they're saying it can even print the house and build it. So just imagine the design guys. So many of you will be out of your occasion unless you do something that a damn machine cannot do. All of you should gear yourself for this now. You must be able to do something beyond your intellect. Human being has many layers of intelligence. Intellect is only a small part of it. Right now, our education system is completely dedicated to intellectual development of the human being, and we think that's the grandest way to live. No, it is not. We can explore that if we have the time. But in the yogic way of looking at things, we look at human intelligence as 16 parts. If you explore other dimensions of intelligence, only then you will be relevant when everything intellectual. Intellectual means your intellect cannot function without accumulated data. Yes or no? Hello? Yes. Your intellect cannot function without accumulated data, is that so? Now, whatever is data assimilation, analysis and execution of that analysis, a machine will do better than you. A human being can always make mistakes, can always fudge information, but a machine is clear-cut. It will simply do those things. So everything that you can do intellectually will be meaningless in another 10 to 15 years' time. Maybe in India it will take 20 to 25 years' time, but inevitably it's going to happen. So you must be equipped with something beyond your intellect. When I say beyond your intellect, there are many ways to look at it. I will make a simplistic example. Simplistic because if we go into more sophisticated examples, we'll have to do a lot of exploration. We don't have that kind of time today. For example, what did you eat for lunch?
Maggie.
You are on Maggie? Can't you… somebody take care of his nourishment? He's on Maggie? Okay, even if you eat the noodle, a noodle doesn't look like him, doesn't feel like him, nothing. But this noodle he eats, within 3-4 hours' time, this Maggi noodle has become a human being, isn't it?
Yeah, part of it.
It's become part of the system. So you are manufacturing such a complex machine with Maggi noodles. This is like a 3D printer. You put Maggi noodles into it. No, I am not made of Maggi noodles, okay? I eat better than that. But you put a chapati into this becomes a human body. This is the most sophisticated machine on the planet. You're manufacturing this with whatever food that you eat. And the food that you eat is just the soil that you walk upon. Yes or no? And it stands up. Isn't this a 3D printer? Hello? Does that intelligence exist within you or not? Not even in your brain, in your gut?
It does.
It does.
It does.
So if only you found conscious access to this dimension of intelligence, you would live magically, isn't it? Then artificial intelligence won't disturb you, you will be very happy because all the menial jobs if the machines do, what a wonderful world. I'm looking forward to that.
Sadhguru, this question…
Okay, let's see how long that one is. 54, that's 10 minutes. Okay, so anyways, I kind of figured it was going that. He did talk about that before, so I kind of knew that ahead of time. And I mean, mind you, a lot of these students are coming from different colleges and probably didn't watch, a lot of his videos and maybe preferred a little bit clearer answer, especially the Dharma one. I trying to remember to see if I've heard Sadhguru talk about Dharma. I think this might be the first time. Dharma to me has always been about duty in some sense, as duty as your role as a father, brother, son, worker, football player, cricket player, poker player, whatever job that you're doing, it's your duty to do it. Duty, like I talked about earlier, just people who are entitled may seem like I shouldn't have to do that for you, but it's not about that. Because entitled people only think for themselves, and that they should only do things for themselves and not for other people. But yes, we'll actually watch one more. Yes, and this will be the last question.
Is something which many of us will be able to relate with. So people are going through a lot in their lives, in their personal and professional lives. So my question is, how do youth especially how they'll be able to realize the difference between sadness and depression? And since realizing
All the way from Bangalore to Ahmedabad.
So realizing a problem is the first step of solution. So this is something important. When someone is in depression, they should know and realize, actualize it first.
No, professionals are telling you, however much of sadness you're in, you're not depressed, because you've still not gone to them. You need a certificate for that. This happened in Bangalore city itself way back, many years ago. 50 years ago, maybe 47 years ago, I think. There was a boy that I knew. He was very scrawny like that, and suddenly he went into some kind of psychological disturbance. He lost his school, started yelling and shouting on the streets. Then the family took him to NIMHANS Institute, which is one of the premier institutions in Bangalore. I think he stayed there for maybe 6 weeks or so. Then he came out, he was quite normal, he was fine. Just that a month or two, he kind of lost his balance. Then when he came, all the boys of his age teasing him, "Hey, you're a nutcase. You were in the madhouse, weren't you? So you're a nutcase." All the time people are making fun of him. So one day he got fed up with this, and he pulled out a paper from his pocket and showed, "See, I have a certificate, I'm normal. Do you have one?" "I have a certificate from NIMHANS which says I'm normal now. You don't have one, right?"
That's a… wow, that's actually
So,
interesting.
we must understand this. Whether it's physical health or mental health, a large part of it is in our hands. A large part of it.
Hold on, rewinding that.
Of it is in our hands. A large part of it is in our hands. A large part of it.
In our hands or in our heads? I think it's heads, because generally speaking, mental health tends to be in our head.
Well, things like cardiac ailments, the variety of other things.
Oh, in our hands, as if we
People
can
thought
control
it's just God-given. Today, doctors are telling you, you don't have to come here, you just eat properly, get up in the morning and do some exercise or yoga or play a game or take a walk or do some damn thing. Don't just sit around. Yes? If you just move around, your ailment may go, that's what they're telling you.
Okay, in your hands, as in you have control over things, you have control over the ailment, perhaps. Yeah.
And how many people have walked out of their cardiac problems simply by doing few sensible things? And how many people have gone to the surgery table because they did not do those sensible things? Is it true or not? So any ailment is not an absolute. Yes, there are certain intrinsic aspects within us which may tend to push us in that direction. Maybe, congenitally, your genetics are such, maybe you are moving towards a cardiac problem, but you can also move away, hold yourself away from it. To a large extent, there are some things which are beyond us, that's different. But a whole lot of it is in our hands. Now, without taking what is in our hands into our hands, we are looking up or looking at the doctor all the time. Some are looking up, some are looking at the doctor. Those who look up will go there, those who look here will go here. United States of America, the most affluent country on the planet. See, why does an individual human being or a society look for affluence? At the initial stage, affluence simply means a choice of nourishment. That's what it means, I can eat what I want. At the next level of affluence, it's a choice of lifestyle. Now a country or a society which has an immense choice of nourishment and lifestyle, 70% of their population is on prescription medication. They're spending over $3 trillion on healthcare. People estimate by 2030, it could be close to $8 billion, their healthcare bill. Many people believe that this could sink the country, not a war, not some other tragedy, healthcare. And every other nation is going in that direction. Europeans have done a fantastic thing of reversing that process to some extent, really. Especially in some parts of Europe, people are much healthier than ever before simply because they're cycling, they're walking, they're doing things and they're eating sensibly. This culture is spreading in Europe. This culture was so much a part of our thing, but now we are all going the American way.
I'll say one thing to that though, is the fact that if you look at small countries, everything tends to be very close together. So you can also see that in metropolitan areas in America, and I'm sure also in metropolitan style areas in other countries where it's so much traffic, you're much quicker getting to your destination either biking or walking. I think depending on certain areas, I was thinking of like of course New York City, where most people walk there. Why? Because there's so many cars on the road. It takes so long to get somewhere that you tend to live close by where you work. You tend to live close by where you want to eat. So you walk to these places. It's just quicker because the car is expensive, and then where you park you have to pay. Gas is expensive, and rent is expensive. So you save money where you can. And you look at some certain European countries, if you live in these big areas where your job is right next door, your apartment's right there, your groceries there, there's no real reason to have a car. But even if you have public transportation where you walk to that public transportation, you hop on it and then you get off at your next destination, you walk over there, you plan everything based on the public transportation because otherwise you have to walk home, which could be a very long distance. But yeah, in metropolitan areas, this makes more sense that they have to walk certain places. But America and large countries, a lot of people don't like to live in the big cities, so they tend to live somewhere else. So they have to get a car or some type of transportation. And in America or large countries, I don't think public transportation is generally well established. So you have to have your own transportation to get somewhere. I mean, even though America is a pretty large country, there's only like 330 million people, and there is a big mass area of nothingness if you want to get from one place to another. So if you live in a big city, it makes sense to not have a car and walk around. Most of America is pretty empty and spread out, so you need a vehicle, and people drive pretty much everywhere. Unless you live in a big city, the only way to get there is by driving. And I'm sure this is fairly true for, again, most big countries. Small countries like UK, most people live close to the big city, or sometimes it's just one drive there and then they walk around all over the place. It can be nice. They have small cars, small roads, because there's not a lot of space. From what I remember watching a few reactions, I think you can drive from the furthest part of UK to the other end in like 8 hours or something like that. And people who came to the United States, like driving 8 hours, you may have made it out of one of the states. It's such a very stretched out country. So to get somewhere in America or even big countries, you're generally going to have a car, so you're not going to be walking as much. But then also he made a very, very observation of how there's just so many things to eat. You don't really have to walk around. There's so many choices that you can make. Your lifestyles, your food choices, and all that, you know? It's all tastes good, but that means a lot of calories.
And as a nation, we can never afford that kind of healthcare bill. Our economy itself is not $3 trillion yet. For 1.3 billion people, if you go for that kind of healthcare, we'll be finished in no time. First of all, we will never do it, okay? For this population, you are never going to provide that kind of thing. Here you have to see, or everywhere we have to see, especially in our country, we have to see how people can stay healthy, not how they can be treated for everything, isn't it? So this goes for physical ailment and for mental ailments. When it comes to mental ailments, there is right now a whole new subject evolving called neuroplasticity. You've heard of neuroplasticity? You can rewire your brains completely. We have been saying this forever in the yogic systems. In 24 hours' time, we can rewire your brain completely so that you think differently, feel differently, act differently in a matter of 24 hours if you are willing to do something very intense and focused. Today they're telling you, just by cultivating a different kind of thought, by doing different kind of activity, you can change the very shape of your brain. The grey matter can increase and decrease in different areas of the brain simply by doing these things in a matter of days or weeks. We have shown this, that people who practice, like we have a simple 21-minute practice which is large, taught widespread, called Shambhavi. It's part of the inner engineering process. University of California made studies on this, and now they're saying that the neuronal regeneration in the brain is 241% higher than normal if you're doing this practice for over 3 months. Everybody could do with little more intelligence, isn't it? Because over 30 years of age, generally there is depletion of neuronal production. What is being depleted and what is being replaced is not equal. But now what is being replaced is higher than the depletion that's happening. So age need not take away your intelligence. When age happens, most people are managing by experience, not by intelligence. Youth below 18 years of age are far more intelligent naturally. Their problem is they don't have experience and information. Over 30 years of age, their intelligence is depleting normally, but they are managing with experience and exposure and stuff like that. But now there is proper studies showing that over 35–40 years of age, you can increase the neuronal regeneration in your brain. So when all this is there, when substantial science is saying this, some people going on saying, no, depression is not by choice, it is an absolute thing, once it happens, you have to come to me. I can understand the business concerns of that. But please, every human being should take absolute responsibility for their physical and mental health from an early age. It's very, very important. Otherwise, I'm telling you, life can throw googlies at you in such a way, just about any so-called normal person can be shattered. Things will happen. So now what will you do? When you fear that you may be shattered like this, what will you do? You will curtail your life. That should not happen. This is why I said, only when fear of suffering is totally taken away from you, when you are absolutely clear, my experience of life is determined by me and nobody else but me, then you will walk full stride. This must happen. Human beings must walk full stride. They should not be walking half steps. But with the fear of depression, sadness, misery, we will all end up walking half steps, isn't it? If you feel little depressed, what's the first thing you do? You curtail your life, isn't it? Isn't it the first thing you do? Don't curtail your life. This life must happen full on. It's a brief amount of time. In this time, there's no need to curtail. This must happen full on.
Okay, that will be the end of this video. But no, he's absolutely right, and this is the biggest thing too. I don't think it's the majority of people in the United States, but I do feel there is a growing minority of people who cannot take responsibility for their actions, and they start blaming other people. I've said this many times before, but again, for those people who have not heard me say this, You have control over your life, which I do agree. And you know, I would say this too. I don't think I've said this in other videos where, you know, I would say maybe before watching these videos, to some degree, before watching these videos, I would say that you're not necessarily at fault for feeling offended to some degree. To some degree, I would agree with that, and to some degree, I wouldn't agree with that. That if someone said something offensive, you didn't necessarily have control over that. It's more for reactionary part of your body, you know. But at the same time, you know, it's you. Whether you are the body or not, it's still you. Before believing that you are not the body, not the emotion, it's still you. You are the emotion. You are the body. You are the thoughts. You are the mind. You are the brain. So you should have control over all these things and not the other way around. You can choose to feel offended. But yes, what's the guru saying? I completely agree. And it's and when he talked about the neuroplasticity, I think I remember hearing somewhere about I can't remember what it is, but is it dementia? I think it's a particular person's name where old people start to forget, and it's because it's the degradation of their brain. But I think they talked about people who practice a certain thing where they have a less chance of this happening to, and it's kind of like a type of brain exercise, I believe it is. I'm wondering if Sadhguru is talking about that. That'd be pretty interesting. I never heard about the study what he's talking about though, but still, I mean, keeping your brain active. I think I heard that was like, you know, constantly using it, not constantly using it, but just using your brain to think, I'm not exactly sure what exact practices it is, but to use your brain is to keep it young, I suppose, or keep it fresh, keep it active, so it doesn't rot away in a sense. And I'm wondering if that's what that study is about, and what Sadhguru may be talking about in an inner engineering class. Or if you just do whatever this 21-minute practice is helps with that. I think that would be fantastic. I mean, again, you know, a lot of people, whenever those three things go away, you know, the hunger, food, water, and shelter goes away, you know, become kind of lazy. No longer need to exercise because we have power tools and equipment that can do that for us, or you can pay someone to do that for you. And now with artificial intelligence, you know, you no longer have to think for yourself. You can just ask a question, and boom, you know, no more muscles, no more brains. We are putting ourselves into extinction. Anyways, on that note, on that helpful note, this is the end of part 2. Hopefully there'll be maybe 1 or 2 more parts to this. So if you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.